Hi everyone, and welcome to our chapter 9 of our entrepreneurship course. There are 3 lessons in this chapter, and this lesson is all about business operations. So let's go ahead and get started with lesson 9.1, which is the role of profit. And our objective in this lesson is to explore the role of profit in a business in order to better understand its significance in driving financial growth and stability. Now, a lot of this is mostly a bunch of key terms. So let's start with the beginning. Key terms of profit. So in the profit side of things. So profit is when the income derived from a business endeavor surpasses or exceeds the expenses, costs, and taxes required to maintain the operation. And this, of course, results in a positive financial outcome. Any money left over after all the costs have been deducted from revenue. That's what profit is. Next is something called profit margin, or the net income. This is calculated as the percentage difference between the selling price and the cost of goods sold. All right, let's keep going on the profit key terms. So next is profitability. This is a business's ability to generate profit. It is measured through probability ratios like the profit margin, and they help to assess a company's financial health and sustainability. Then there's revenue growth or increase. Revenue increase, revenue growth. Same thing. So this is when you are boosting a business's total revenue. And the ways you can do that is like increasing your sales volume, selling more products or services. It could be from raising prices. It could be expanding to new markets or other methods. Now, of course, the goal is to increase profit, assuming costs do not increase at the same rate. All right, let's look at some key terms that involve the cost side of things. So costs are expenses incurred by a business in the process of generating revenue. They are direct costs. There are direct costs, which are directly attributed to producing a product or service, like raw materials. But there are also indirect costs. These are ones not directly tied to a specific product or service, like rent or administrative salaries. Next is something called cost of goods sold. It's also known as COGS. This is the direct expenses associated with manufacturing a product or providing a service. We're going to continue on with our cost key terms. Cost reduction. This is a strategy aimed at lowering a company's costs to increase its profits. Now, cost reduction can involve things like finding cheaper suppliers, eliminating waste, improving processes, or any other actions that reduce those expenses, those costs. Now, cost proportions, these show how much of the revenue is consumed by the different type of costs. Now, a high proportion may indicate some inefficiency in the business. And again, we're going to continue on with some key term costs, like raw materials. These are the basic components or inputs that are used in the production process to manufacture goods or provide the services. There's also the labor costs. These are the individuals who are paid employees, such as wages, salaries, stipends, etc. of a business. Anybody who gets those type of things, that's your labor costs. All right, more cost key terms. There's something called overhead expenses. These are also known as fixed costs. These are the costs of running a business that are not directly associated with the production of goods or services. And you can see in this example, these are some examples of some of those fixed or overhead costs. And these are costs that you would incur even if your business wasn't producing anything. Then there's something called non-operating expenses. These are costs that are not related to the primary business activities. And companies aim to keep these as low as possible to maximize your profits. All right, we're going to switch gears slightly and talk about something called Ricardo's Law. Now, David Ricardo was a British economist in the 1800s, and he revolutionized the way businesses and even entire countries make decisions. And we're going to talk about some of those key concepts of this Ricardo's Law. So The main key concept here is something called opportunity costs. And this is recognizing the highest foregone alternative versus the complete set of alternatives when a choice is made. One thing that can trip us up is the idea that there is more than one opportunity cost. Sometimes we think that our opportunity cost is all of the possible things that we could have done but didn't do. Ricardo's law forces us to compare only two things, the two most valuable things. And the one we don't choose, that is our opportunity cost. Okay, so opportunity costs, remember that cost doesn't always mean money. Your opportunity cost could be the time it takes to do a task. Costs are not always calculated in dollars and cents. There's three basic resources. There's time, attention, and money. And in a way, even if it is just us as individuals involved in the decision, we are still trading with our future self. For example, if I choose to go to a party instead of studying, but still plan to study later, I am trading the fun of going to the party with the relative pain of studying with my future self. And in fact, a business leader named Peter Drucker had a famous quote. He said, "There are no solutions, only trade-offs." So if the idea of opportunity cost is, again, if I do X, what is the most valuable thing that I am giving up? All right, so going along with that is something called comparative advantage. Now, this is where you're matching the one individual or group to the activity for which they are best suited or most capable of executing. When it comes to comparative advantage, we need to remember that it is different than competitive advantage, and it's also different than absolute advantage. So, we need to remember this differentiation. Comparative advantage is about having the lowest cost of production. Competitive advantage is about the highest value. Now, a company can have both, and in fact, comparative advantage is one of two ways to have a competitive advantage, but it's not the only way. Then there's also absolute advantage, which is when you can do everything better at a lower cost, at a higher value, etc. Now, you might have an absolute advantage over your entire group, but scarcity dictates that there are opportunity costs for that, and a company or person with an absolute advantage is not immune to this. So when it comes to comparative advantage, we need to focus on the thing for which you have a comparative advantage and then trade with someone else for the rest. When that happens, everyone is better off. In the market, you should specialize in the task that you have the lowest opportunity cost in, even if you can still do something else really well. If someone can do the same task as you in less time, then they should be doing that, and you can focus on other tasks. So comparative advantage encourages specialization and cooperation in the market. Now, here's a question to consider just before we finished up. So how does considering opportunity costs impact a company's ability to generate profits? Well, it allows companies to make more informed decisions by evaluating the potential gains they would give up in favor of a chosen alternative, ultimately impacting their ability to generate profits. All right, so that concludes our lesson 9.1 on the role of profit. We explore the role of profit in a business in order to better understand its significance in driving financial growth and stability. And we also discuss the concepts of opportunity cost, comparative advantage, competitive advantage, and absolute advantage.